Booyah.
Welcome back to Film Gob, everyone. It's Shaker here, and I just got back from watching Aquaman, so I'm going to review it. It's going to be a non-spoiler review, so you guys can watch it. If you've not seen the movie, you can watch this review. I'm not going to spoil it, and I might leave the spoiler review until after it's been released in the US, because a lot of you guys who watch my channel are from the US, so we'll give it some time for you guys to catch up, and then we'll do a spoiler discussion. But what did I think of Aquaman? I liked it quite a bit. You know, even though there's a lot of cheesiness, maybe some, you know, direction choices that I didn't like, or you know, character development or lack of character development for some characters, that can be forgiven, because the action in this movie, when the action comes, it is amazing, right? If you go back to, say, Man of Steel, right? Man of Steel, my one nitpick about that film was I wish we got to see more of Krypton. I wish we got to spend more time on Krypton, maybe seeing the war that was taking place, a little bit more of that. That was my nitpick of Man of Steel. So here comes Aquaman, this movie, right? And it fills that gap, that void of seeing these kind of spectacular action, fantasy world action. It fills that gap perfectly. I really like the character arc of Arthur Curry, and how, you know, he doesn't kind of trust, or he doesn't like the Atlanteans, doesn't like Atlantis, he doesn't care about that because of the way they treated his family. And then just as, you know, he has a chance to do something early on in the movie, but he turns his back, and then that comes back to kind of, you know, there's consequences because of that later on in the film, and he learns from that. So there's a lot of things about Arthur Curry and his character that I really like in this film, and the kind of progression of his character. So I like that. Mera's good. Willem Dafoe as Vulko. Black Manta, that's the one thing about this film. His character isn't very, he's not there that much. He's not very, his character is a little bit rushed, but his action scenes are incredible. Orm, or Ocean Master, played by Patrick Wilson. I've not had much chance to kind of think about it just yet, but I think he is up there with some of the best villains in this DCEU. There's a lot of moments in this film, like repetitive moments. I'll give you two examples. One is where, you know, the music builds and then it stops, and it's like a one-liner or a joke. That happens 3-4 times. The jokes are fine, like the jokes are, you know, they are what they are, but that kind of trick of building the music and then stops and then someone says something, it got a bit repetitive. And another thing that got a little bit repetitive was someone's having, 2 or 3 people are having a conversation, and then an explosion happens and they get knocked to the ground. That happens about 3-4 times as well. A bit annoying. I was like, come on, maybe script issues, whatever you want to call it. A bit repetitive, a bit lazy. The music by Rupert Gregson-Williams, pretty good. Some parts that are kind of, you know, generic comic book action music, but there's some moments that are like influenced by Blade Runner, well, maybe Tron Legacy, especially in the scenes where, you know, like when you're in Atlantis, there's some chase sequences, really good, kind of like, say, Tron, Blade Runner inspired music. I like that. There's a couple, like 2 or 3 weird song choices. I don't know if they came from Rupert or James Wan. Really weird. One of my favourite bands is featured in this movie. Their music is featured, and I was like, sure, I love the band, but their music, why is it in here? A few moments of odd song choices, but the score in majority of the film was quite good. It is quite a long film, about 2.5 hours. I wouldn't say it drags anywhere, so it does keep your attention, it does keep going, it's a good pacing, fast moving. I love the kind of world design So there's a lot of different kind of influences that you can see. You know, people can see Indiana Jones, they can see Star Wars, they can see, for me personally, I thought a little bit of Jason and the Argonauts, kind of classic, mythological kind of locations, really beautifully shot. Some real life locations, very beautifully shot, and a lot of, you know, CGI world design, which I also thought was quite good. So yeah, movie looks amazing, looks beautiful, very colourful. So several good scenes in this. You know, the fight between Arthur Curry and Black Manta in Italy, Sicily, that was amazing. Some of the camera work in that scene is so good. I was sitting there kind of laughing, so that it was so good. It was ridiculously good. The trench sequence, very intense, very dark, gothic horror, kind of very James Wan. You might have heard, we've got Mary Poppins in this movie, or the voice of the original Mary Poppins, and I did like that scene. Won't go too much into it, but I did really like it. And of course, towards the end, you've got these lobster army fighting against sharks, and you know, might take a while to get used to the, you know, their motion and their kind of the look of it, and because it is, you know, in Atlantis, now something we've not seen before. And I really like the ending. It's quite different. It's like the way things kind of resolve themselves. It's a little bit different, so I'll leave it at that. But the second half of this movie, like I say, whatever, you know, say Man of Steel, you know, the Krypton, my personal nitpick, where I wanted to see more of that world and that action, I guess Aquaman kind of fills that void. And boy does it, when the action comes, it's so good. And even, you know, the final showdown, the way it's directed, the movement, several scenes in this movie where things could look bad. I mean, I watched it on IMAX and it looked pretty good. You know, Arthur Curry, his movement, his, not just Arthur Curry, any character, kind of the movement, the direction, the camera work, so good. It's almost Zack Snyder-ish. Choices that I didn't like, and you know, some of the cheesiness or the corniness, whatever you want to call it, in the dialogue or the, you know, characters, that can be forgiven because, man, some of the world design and the action and the locations that they go to, and you know, it's a beautiful looking movie, so that more than makes up for it, for the faults of the film. So I would give this movie, at this moment, I would give it a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 for Aquaman. So I'm going to go and watch it again, probably on Friday, because I'll get to watch it in a 2D screening now, and I'll see if, you know, some things look better or if they look as good as they did in IMAX. But in the meantime, click that like button, share, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Shaker, and I'll catch you later.